There was this time long ago when I was in charge of watching my cousin and his 4 friends during a sleepover. My uncle paid me $100 to watch them for the night. I thought it would be the easiest $100 I ever made. I played video games with a bunch of 10-year-olds for most of the night, thinking it would be fun and easy money. We were having a blast, but little did I know that things were about to take a terrifying turn. We were in the basement, still engrossed in our video games, when I heard footsteps coming from upstairs. The sound was faint at first, but it quickly grew louder, more distinct. 2 of the kids heard the sounds too, and looked at me with wide, scared eyes. I counted 5 kids sitting on the couches, confirming that everyone was accounted for. Neither my aunt nor uncle was supposed to be home that night, so the footsteps were puzzling and unsettling. I swallowed my gum when I realized the basement door was wide open. It had been shut earlier, I was sure of it. My heart started to race. I told the kids to stay there while I ran upstairs to shut the door. The door didn't have a lock from the inside, only the outside, which meant anyone could have opened it. I called to the kids to hide in the workout room. I shut the TV and all the lights, then followed the kids into the workout room. We listened in the dark as the footsteps approached the basement door. The sound of the door opening sent chills down my spine, followed by the heavy steps stomping down each stair, one by one. One of my cousin's friends was crying, his whimpers barely audible but heartbreaking. I had to tell them to shut up, whispering harshly to keep them quiet. I leaned against the door, using a chair and some barbell weights to wedge it shut. I listened as the boiler room door was opened and then closed. Screams filled the room as the workout room doorknob began to turn. I pushed the door with all my might to keep it shut. Whoever was on the other side quickly gave up, and we heard rushed footsteps going up the stairs. I heard the footsteps above our heads moving towards the front door. This was before everyone had cell phones, so calling someone first wasn't an option. I scanned the house, finding the front door open and all the bedrooms upstairs trashed. Nobody was in the house, so I called the kids up. A few things had been stolen, but as long as nobody was hurt, we were all happy. It was a relief to know we were safe, but the fear lingered long after that night. Fast forward a few years, and it was during a blizzard in Valley Stream. I was getting paid $250 to watch a couple's kid while they went away for the weekend. His name was Matthew. This happened on the first night, which was a Friday. Matthew was supposedly asleep while I was in the living room watching a movie. I got a knock at the door and looked at the clock. It was close to midnight. There was no way I was opening it. Not even 10 seconds later, I heard the sound of 2 or 3 men angrily banging on the door, telling me to open up. I felt like my heart was about to stop. I peeked through the blinds and saw someone standing right on the other side of the window. I fell back in fear. After managing to get back on my feet, I ran to the kitchen phone to call the police. They said because of the weather, it could take a while for an officer to get there. I was told to take the child and hide until an officer arrived. They wanted to keep me on the line, but I wasn't thinking clearly and hung up. It wasn't until I ran through the living room that I realized the banging had stopped. I took another peek through the living room window. Nobody was there now. I heard the sound of glass shattering from a few rooms over. My knees started to feel weak as I realized they had broken the window and were about to climb into the house. I had to run and get Matthew. I couldn't just leave without him. When I got upstairs, there was no time left to run back down as I already heard footsteps and laughter coming from downstairs. I covered Matthew's mouth with my hand as I ran with him into his toy closet. A few minutes dragged on, feeling like half an hour as we sat in the dark closet. Matthew began to squeal as footsteps reached the outside of his bedroom door. There was more than one person. They came inside. There weren't many places to hide. I was reflecting on my whole life, thinking I was going to die. We heard the sound of a police siren outside, and then I heard one of the men mutter, "Oh shit." I opened the door as I heard at least 3 pairs of footsteps rushing down the stairs. They didn't get far as the police found their footprints in the backyard leading to our shed. There were 5 men in total, and they were all arrested. I was 15 years old, still babysitting since I couldn't get a real job. This was by far the most horrifying experience of my life. The kid I was babysitting, Mike, and I were walking his dog through the woods in his backyard. His dog stopped, ears pointed up and paw in the air, barking and pulling like crazy. He noticed something. We were nervous it was a black bear, so I told Mike to turn around and walk back to the house. I struggled to pull the dog in the other direction and then noticed what he was barking at. A man standing there, staring at us. I yelled out asking if he needed something and he turned around and walked off. I was freaked out. The dog calmed down, making the walk back easier for a few minutes until the dog started freaking out again. I was worried it was the same guy following us. I was tempted to unleash the dog, but thought it was a bad idea. I didn't look back, but the dog continued to bark and pull. I did my best to walk fast. For half an hour, I made sure we weren't followed, checking every window and door. Eventually I felt safe and played Mario Kart with Mike, forgetting what happened. But my worst fear came true when I heard a toy bucket fall over outside the window. Turning on the patio light, I saw a green bucket of toys had been knocked over. There was no way a small animal did that. The dog went crazy again, barking. I told Mike to get his dad's hunting rifle. Maybe it was dumb to have an 8-year-old get a gun for me, but I didn't have time to think rationally. Strange noises came from outside the house, taps on windows, chimes pushed, things falling over. I caught a glimpse of him through a window. He was walking past until he noticed me and stopped. I lifted the gun to show him we were armed. He didn't run away immediately, just crouched and stared at me. He finally walked back into the woods. I didn't sleep much that night, jumping at every noise. A week later, Mike's parents called, saying a creepy man had been stalking their house. They asked for a description. I couldn't give much detail but assured them it was the same man. They begged me to babysit again, but I always declined. That was a while ago, and I have no idea what happened to that family or the man stalking their house. I frequently babysat between 15 and 18. I lived close to a wealthy area where people paid generously. There was never a shortage of babysitting jobs, so I made decent money. I definitely had to take care of some strange kids, but this one takes the prize. From the moment I met Michael, he seemed quiet and weird. He was 12, which some might argue is old enough to be home alone, but maybe not overnight. They needed me to stay overnight. His parents said he could be strange and might need extra attention. I didn't need to do much. The room I would be sleeping in had a huge toy closet, big enough for a Lego play table with a bunch of Legos and other toys on it. Michael spent most of his time in there building with Legos and toys. I didn't spy on him too much, just let him do his thing, but I heard him constantly talking in there. Not play talking, like someone was with him. I assumed he had problems, as his parents hinted. He came down to eat leftovers from the fridge, then went back to his closet. It wasn't until I told him it was time to sleep that he left the closet. I just wanted to sleep. In the middle of the night, I woke to sounds from the closet, sounds of toys like Legos. I called out to Michael to go to sleep. The sound stopped. The closet light wasn't on, so I was confused about how he could be playing in the dark. I opened the closet and turned on the light. Michael wasn't in there. I dismissed the noises and went back to sleep. An hour later, I woke up to partial brightness in the room. The closet light was on, but the door was shut. I called Michael's name, pissed now. I saw the outline of feet under the door and heard a giggle, thinking he was messing with me. I knew he was in there. I opened the door and fell back in horror when nobody was in there. Where the outlines of feet were, there was nothing. I felt a pain in my chest from fear. I ran to Michael's room, finding him asleep in his bed. I locked his door and laid on the floor next to him, feeling safer. I fell asleep on the floor. When his parents returned the next day, I decided to keep quiet about what I witnessed. I know what happened. I got paid and left, never worrying about it again. It still sends chills up my spine thinking about it, and I have no idea what to believe.